Hello, so let's wait a bit for the stream to start. And today we're gonna talk a bit about the common aspects of the data querying in the .NET 7 and Entity Framework, with these three approaches. So the first one is the querying the related data via include directive. The next one is querying via projection query. So just within the entity framework, and the third approach is on the using AutoMapper and how each approach does affect the actual query in the to the database. So first of all, let's go to our test project. So it's very simple. So I have tried to make the most simple case, and I will explain what we have here. So it's a bit modified console application. So because it's started within the host, just because we need login for this case. So just to see what the entity framework actually does generate. So we have such a database context, and we will query just three tables. So we will query the customer, which has some orders, and each order can have one or multiple products. So, and we have some setup here. And we have these three entities. So database, so it's inherited from this one. So just with the common ID property and with the attribute of the key, and we are not using identity here, so we will just generate it by ourselves. And we have such we have such DTOs for each of the three entities. So why we can use this syntax? Just because if we go here, so we are using just the long version preview within the .NET 7, which allows us to use this primary constructor feature. So we are not using the preview of the .NET just because it can lead to potential errors. And here we are using the AutoMapper for some cases. We are using bogus for mocking the test data. We are using the bulk extensions for inserting a pretty large amount of this test data, and it's a more optimal approach in the entity framework in terms of hundreds or thousands of entities. So we have the entity framework or SQL server, and we have extensions hosting just to enable the proper login for the console application, like in the web application templates such as MVC or Blazor or something like that. And we are of course copying the app settings in the manual way just because it's not the web application template. So the same is for orders. So we have the order with the navigation properties, and we have the DTO for orders just with the part of the data. So we are not including the customer ID, order IDs, and so on in the DTO. So, and the same thing with product. So we have just the data entity, and we have the DTO. Next, as far as I have told, that we are using also the AutoMapper. We have the mapping profile just as a regular mapping profile, and there is a simple mapping between these three entities. So we are not writing any custom conversions between the properties, just for the simplicity. Okay, next. What we have here in the configuration. So we, as far as I have mentioned, we have the login within information level. So just to log the entity framework queries, we have the mapper configuration. And here we are verifying this configuration just before actually using it. So because if we are going to use the AutoMapper, sometimes we can have the potential cases with some not matching properties, and it would be better to determine that just on app startup and not in the runtime. So next we have the singleton of this AutoMapper. We have the DB context just with the split query and without the query tracking. So just to not to be confused with the performance, because we will insert the test entities in the other way. So, and next we are getting the mapper and DB context, and then let's proceed with our data. So first of all, here we are generating the test data using bogus. So we are generating the 50 shops, products, customers, and orders and order products. So and as far as the order product is many to many and has to be unique, so we are not allowed to insert the duplicates here. So that's why we are just for sure we are making the distant by the complex key, so just not to encounter the error on the insertion. And then we have such a hook with bulk extensions. So when we will overwrite the data, if it exists now with the newly generated, just by truncated bulk insert. So bulk insert is the optimized insert mechanism for the huge amount of the entities. So let's first of all ensure that we have this data. So for example, let's also uncomment this one. And let's have a test run first. Yeah, and here we see that the first query has resulted with the data. Okay, so and a bit more details regarding these queries. So we have the, as far as I mentioned, we have these three main scenarios. So what is the first one? So the first scenario is when we are getting the data just with using the query with include and include directives. So for example, we have customers which have orders, and each order has one or multiple products. So that's why we are going to use include, then to array async, or maybe it's better to use to list async, but yeah, let it be for now to array async. And next we have these two approaches. So first one, the manual mapping. So it's not this one is not the it's just the mapping from the data entities, which is a enumerable customer, to the collection of the DTOs. So when we are doing the select for each of the levels, and then for example we have the arrays here, but yeah, so it can be either not array but possibly list, but yeah. So and we are mapping everything manually here, and the mapping using the AutoMapper. So it requires us to inject the IMapper service, and next we are gonna to use the mapper.map and specify the type to which we are mapping. So it's the root type, so it's the customer array, and next the all entities within the customer DTO, so the orders and products will be mapped accordingly. So, and we are using just this one and these two ones to get the data using the both approaches. But we are interested in the console output, so that's why I will run this and next expand the console. Okay, and what we have here? Yeah, so it's probably, yeah, let us rerun, just because the not all output has been saved now. Yeah. So what do we have in console? So we, as far as we are using the split query behavior, here we have three separate queries. And first one, we are selecting everything from the customer. So not only the fields we need in the DTO, but we selected the whole table. Next, we are joining the order table. So, and we also are selecting everything from the order. So we are not deterministic here in terms of what we will need later in the DTO. Maybe we will need just the address, but now we are selecting everything. And the third one is when we are joining the third table, so using the multiple inner joins. So, and this way we are selecting the pretty huge amount of data. So actually we are selecting the all of the data from the three tables in the non-deterministic way, so which we need, either we do not need, like it's in the projection queries. Okay, so let's finish this one. And yeah, one moment regarding the AutoMapper. This one I have not, probably I have not explained why do we have this third configuration is valid. For example, let's go to the customer DTO and let's do something like this. So this will not break the program on the compile time. So because let me, yeah, so build completed. Yeah, so for example, we could possibly think that the first name will be somehow mapped to this updated to this field with the other naming. But if we will try to run the app now, so let me expand also the console. Yeah, here we see the exception that tells us that we have an unmapped properties, and we have the exact specification of which properties have not been mapped. So that's why it's a very convenient way to determine any kind of mismatching properties just on the first application startup. So that's why this thing should be obligatory used with the AutoMapper. So next, what is the second approach? So the second approach is the projection using just the entity framework. So here there is no AutoMapper here. So we have we are querying just the DB context customer, but here we have, first of all, we do not have any kind of the include and then include directives in the projection query. So we do not actually need any of these directories actually. So we have just the context dbset.select. Next we have yeah, so orders order select, and after that we are querying against the third nested collection inside the top level entities. So, and on the top level we can use the asynchronous approach. So it can be either to array async, to list async, and so on. So, and this method actually results in a collection of our DTOs which we actually need. So there is no need, for example, to first of all to include everything and then to transform the data received from the database to the other format. So, and let's run the second approach and see how the query does differ. So let's, yeah, so just this one. So we are not running the both approaches in the same time because the entities could be cached within the entity framework. That's why it's not very good. Yeah. So, but there is something with the console output. It's very strange, but let's run one more time. So the console somehow trims the output. Yeah. So, and here we see that the first select directive is actually selects only the data needed from the table, so not the other fields which will be not included in the DTO. So we are selecting just the necessary amount of data from the customer. Next, we are selecting just the necessary amount data from the product. not the product but the order, and next we are joining the product table, but also with the only necessary amount of the data. So that's why this query is quite more optimal. So just in terms, if for example the data tables in the database could have potentially tens or yeah, so quite a lot of fields which we are not gonna need in the DTO. And yeah, the third approach, using the same, using just the AutoMapper. So from the AutoMapper perspective, it looks like this. So we have the injection of the IMapper service pre-configured on the first step, and then we have the dbset dot project2. Then we're specifying the actual the actual type. So the actual singular type, so because we are projecting, and next we are specifying the way of the data retrieval. So for example, first of all we are projecting one type to other type, and then we are retrieving the result against this specific type. Of course, this approach could not be used in some cases, for example, with the find method, because it inflates the data just without any possibility to include something or to project to some other type on the just as a projection, not as the map. But in some cases, this projection approach is quite good in terms of performance. So, and these two ones are almost similar in this case. So just this one is the manual projection and this one is the projection within the AutoMapper. And in the mapping profile, so one more thing, of course, we could potentially write the create projection instead of create map, but this one would be suitable only for the projection approach. So if we combine both the projection approach and map approach in the application, so we should stick just with the create map and not to do something like this one. So I will not run this, but I will say that yeah, this one was tested, and this will result in the duplication of the mapping. So that's why it's also not the case. So just create maps. So and map is suitable both for mapping and for projection. Yeah, and let's run our third query with the AutoMapper. And let's see the output. So, and the output is almost the same as we got within the manual projection. So we see only the required fields here. We see only the required fields, only the required properties on the joining the second table, and the same for the third table. So what is the conclusion between these three approaches? So the first case of the including and then, for example, mapping to some other entities or mapping within the AutoMapper could be suitable, but for the scenarios when, for example, we have different data endpoints which require the different mappings in terms of the DTO, or for example, we have some logic that, for example, we have to select on the first step, we have separately select all the data from the database, and only then we have to manually map or send or to do some actions within the data. So it's not the simultaneous actions in terms of the data. So, and if the task is more about the performance and we have the functionality where we are getting and transforming the data just at one step. So we should stick either with manual projection approach or with the AutoMapper projection approach. So, and this one or this one, so it depends, as for me, just on the developer. So because some of the developers are good with AutoMapper and its usage, and some prefer only the manual mapping. So that's why both of these cases are possible, but it just depends. So I hope this video would be useful for you. If you have any ideas or comments, please message me. I would be glad for the constructive discussion, and see you. Happy coding. Bye.